Welcome to another week of Celtic Chalk Talk. My name is Steve Purciello, lifelong Celtic fan. I go back to the Bill Russell days. It's been a while. Before we begin, I just want to mention this. You're listening to something that's from the Peach Basket Network. We have a whole bunch of pods along this network, and I really suggest, if you like this one, to look into the other ones as well. They're pretty good, and real good, actually. But the big thing here is that we are all independent fans of basketball, and we watch the games, and we naturally root for some teams and so on, but we're different in that way, and we welcome anybody who wants to subscribe, but also just wants to comment about what we're doing. It's an interesting group of people, and it's an interesting group of podcasts. I suggest strongly that you try the Peach Basket Network. Now, let's talk about the Celtics. Now, part of me is naturally disappointed the season is over. Today, I want to talk about the games that the Boston Celtics lost and just go into a little bit about that and maybe a couple of other little things, and really not get too deep on the future. We'll do that in the next few weeks. The game 5 is where I left it and where it was last week. What a terrible loss. Boston was winning at halftime, winning in the second quarter, winning throughout, and they just couldn't score in the fourth quarter. They really just didn't play well. I don't think that was the story in going back to that game. I think what Philly did in the third quarter, they realized that Boston has nobody that can stop Embiid in the post. So what did Philly do? And Nick Nurse deserves a great deal of credit. I thought he coached a good series, and this was very intelligent, putting Joel Embiid on the block. Now, Cada had trouble with him. Cada had trouble throughout the series with foul trouble and all the other things that go with it. And he didn't play. For the final game, he did play over 30 minutes. But before that, he didn't because he was constantly in foul trouble. But they put him on the block, Embiid on the block with him. If Boston doubled, Embiid was sharp enough to kick it out. And the beauty of this was Philadelphia shot very well from three throughout the series. So his kickouts would end up being a three from Edgecombe or George, who shot 55% from the series. And it hurt Boston. And that kind of changed the tone of the game, which is important. They couldn't stop Embiid, Boston. I thought after the game, I wrote some notes, and naturally I thought they could be in trouble because this game wasn't a loss as much as Philadelphia did some things that Boston didn't have answers for. The fourth quarter was the natural killer for the Celtics. They went 3 for 22 in the fourth quarter. They only scored 11 points. It was anybody's game going in, and it became Philadelphia's game going out because of the inability to make a shot. Now, we can criticize Boston for relying on threes because they did take their share of them, but you just expect better shooting, and they shot well all year. They didn't do it there. So the loss was tough. You start thinking about it after the game. You say to yourself, okay, they got to go to Philly. That's going to be rough. And then you still got that ace in the hole the seventh game. So you still have some hope that you can right the ship. Game 6, I thought Boston would make some adjustments if Embiid played the block and do different things to try to stop him. What adjustments can you make with Embiid on the block? I don't know. You have Vukovic, who played horribly in the series, and really no defense at all, especially on the block. He just allowed Embiid to just go through him and do. So you had that. Garza's not a defender. He's not there for his defense. He's more of an energy guy who can offensive rebound and spark you in a lot of ways because he plays so hard. Cada is a nice center, but he's not big. He's not physically big, and that's a problem with Embiid. And Boston really made no adjustments going in, which I was disappointed. The other thing that Boston didn't do throughout is they always play drop. And in the drop coverage, Embiid was getting little 15-footers, but also Maxey coming off the screen was killing Boston, getting layups, getting threes, getting anything he wanted. So they didn't adjust at all. They got blown out by 13. It was a terrible effort. The guards, as I just alluded to, the guards were unstoppable. Edgecombe and Maxey were just unstoppable. And Boston had nobody that can stay between them and the basket consistently. And that was a killer also. The other thing that just throughout this series, Paul George went back to the fountain of youth, and he played like he was 10 years younger. He was great in the whole series. Again, 55% from three in the series. In my notes, I wrote something down at the end of the game. Boston is in trouble. Only thing that can save them is to shoot well at home. Now, I thought it would be difficult. They're coming home. They're going to shoot the ball well. They haven't shot it in a couple of games now, so they're going to have a night. And now we go to Game 7. Game 7 now. Jayson Tatum, it's announced suddenly on I guess it was Saturday morning, that he had some problems. He was questionable, and then by Saturday afternoon, he was out. He had some left knee stiffness, which is another story. I think that's a problem, and naturally, Boston goes into the game in a little bit of trouble without one of their best players. Anyway, Boston now, I don't know why, I guess because at the end of Game 6, Mazzulla used his bench and they played with energy. So what he decided to do in Game 7 was, without Tatum, he used Harper and Shireman and Garza with JB and White. Interesting idea. Don't know how good an idea it was, but I understand the thought behind it. Now, to me, going into the game, Boston, the whole game comes down to if Boston can shoot. If they don't shoot, it's not going to be easy because they're down their best player and they're playing against a pretty good team. Anyway, the game began. Philly got off, I believe, to about 9-0 start, and Boston was in trouble. Mazzulla went away from that after about 4 or 5 minutes of those guys and got some of the guys like Hauser and Pritchard back into the game. They were down the whole game. They did get the game down to 1 point with 5 minutes left. At that point, Boston had 3 shots at taking a lead. 3, and they chose 3 threes, and they were open. 1 was by Pritchard, 1 was by Brown, and 1 was by D. White. The Jaylen Brown one got halfway down and then came out. And just when that happened, you sit there and say, this ain't our night. It ain't happening. But they missed all 3. Pritchard's was shot, and from the camera, when you were watching it on TV, you could see it was going to be going towards the basket, towards the back rim, and it didn't go in. And Pritchard makes that shot, I'd say 70 out of 100 times. But he didn't there. So it was just a tough game. They didn't play good. They shot poorly. Boston shot 26% from 3, 40% overall. Paul George, as I said before, shot 55% from 3 in the series. Played a little bit. He's still a good player, but he played above his head. And that's what Philly had to do. Boston had no answer for Embiid. They did put JB on him late, and he kind of held his own, which was surprising. And he made a nice block on one shot. He made another block, I guess, on Maxey going to the basket at another time. So Jaylen Brown tried to muscle and do his best against Embiid in the post, but Embiid is bigger and stronger, and that's just the way it is. Now, in the game, White started out very well. He had 16 or 18 at half. He shot a bunch of threes. Looked like, oh, good, this horrible slump is over. Ultimately ended up 5 for 16 from 3. Not a good night. 9 for 26 overall. Not a good night also. Just not as good a game as you'd hoped. He had 26, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. For JB, interesting game, 12 for 27. He had parts where he was dominant, like he was during the year, and other parts where he wasn't. 3 for 9 from 3. 33 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, a couple nice blocks, as I said, and he guarded Embiid down the stretch, took a shot, but Boston got no points from Shireman, Garza, Harper, Ugo, Walsh. And by the way, Ugo came in the second quarter and turned the game a little bit with his energy. Boston came back. Ugo also missed 2 foul shots, which could have helped, of course, at some point. Now, how do I look at this? I think this was a great year. We had a lot of fun. We didn't expect this. Yeah, they should have been able to beat Philly. Especially with Embiid missing the first 3 games. Losing game 2 was key in the whole thing. But it is what it is. I think we're setting ourselves up slowly for next year and the future. Tatum got to play, proved that he's okay. He knows what he has to do and what he has to work on this summer. But he also goes into the season knowing he's healthy. He can play. He's not going to worry about this major injury again, hopefully. Those are big things for him. For JB, he's just got to keep on keeping on. I think there will be changes, which I will allude to in the future. But I guess for now, that's it. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about the future and what we think Brad Stevens might or should do. Thanks again, and take care.